Great, you got a phrase. 1, 2, 3. Hi, this is Sean. I recently taught a live about learning to improvise without the overwhelm, so anybody can start making phrases. We did it in 3 sections. This is going to be the first of them. So we're going to go into the live session and see what happened. And for me, the first stage, in order to improve what you're already doing or to get into improvisation phrases, is to create no context phrases. In other words, simple little scale phrases, using some extras as well that we'll see to create some authentic sounds. Not necessarily worrying about chord progressions and how we attack tunes, just getting good at creating phrases. We used to do lots of this kind of thing in Barry Harris classes together, and working on the simple was often the key to unlocking some more fluency and more power in improvisation. So I hope you'll recognize the value of working on these simple little things. Let's have a look at what happened on that day. To begin, I'm going to take a major scale, 5 notes up and down. Simple, right? Anybody could do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But do you know where you are in the time? So people who ask, how can I improve my time? I got you. I haven't forgotten you. Do you know that you just played 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1? If I were to ask you which beat did you finish on, would you have known that you finished on 1? Those sorts of things. Next, let's come back to that. Let's take that 5-note phrase through the scale. Then, you don't need to do anything with your left hand, those people are going to ask. You should be able to do simple stuff like this, right? Let me speed up. 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Just doing things like that, by the way. Make sure you play all of them, right? Now, let's make the distinction between doing work that will nourish you and just entertaining yourself. There's no point writing to me going, how do I play walking bass with that? When your time is all over the place, yeah? When your tunes are not solid, where you don't know the progressions in the tunes, where if you start improvising, then your chords fall apart because you don't really know them, right? All that stuff. Because I know this is going on with my new students and my advanced students a lot of the time, because that's where your responsibility comes in. That's where I can show you, but you have to focus in the right way. Okay, next, I'm going to add a half step beneath each of these phrases. So what used to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 becomes and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Half step under D. 3, 4 and 1. Half step under E. 3, 4 and 1. Half step under F becomes E, right? E is the half step. Etc. All the way through the scale. 3, 4 and 1. Okay, simple things. By the way, the person who asked, a couple of you asked, but how do I get past, just playing things that sound like chords and scales? Do the chords and scales. If you work on this stuff, what will happen is we're going to be doing this throughout the whole session today. We're going to keep evolving a phrase into something else, going to keep evolving it into something else. That's the work. Getting the simple and turning it into something magical. And therefore, this becomes working from the inside out. Yeah. As one of my students once said, and it's really stuck with me, he said, jazz is music that is played by a jazz musician. If you really think about it, what's being said there is that we cannot identify what jazz is or how to do it per se, but we can identify the skills that a jazz musician works on and a jazz musician needs. I do not have any jazz musician friends who can't do this stuff, right? I have a lot of students who couldn't do that in B flat with the half steps below, who couldn't do it in A flat, who couldn't do it in E flat, who couldn't do it in G without screwing up at the end, right? That kind of thing. The more you evolve it, you're going to find, we'll do it now. I'm sure we will get to something that we really like at some point, right? Okay, now I'm going to say, all right, what happens if I add 2 half steps? So which beat, people can type in the chat box. If I want to add 2 half steps before the phrase begins, then which beat does the phrase need to begin on? 1, 1 and, 2, 2 and, 3, 3 and, 4, 4 and. Yep, I'll give a few more people a chance. Exactly. Brian, you got 4. John got 4. Yeah, exactly. So if we began on 4 and before, now we're going to begin on 4, right? So if I have 2 half steps now, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Quite like that. Okay, we'll remember that phrase. We'll come back to that. Quite like that. Okay. Also, I would work on cutting off notes. So let's say I cut off the first note. Instead of adding 1 and adding 2 extras, I'm going to cut off the first note. So what used to be... Which beat do I need to begin on now? Somebody? Thank you, Brian. Somebody's got to beat Brian. The 1 and, exactly. Michael got it too. Well done. Now we're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, no, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. I got that one. 3, 4, 1, and should be here, shouldn't it? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, then G. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, right? These are all things you're going to hear. All of these simple little things. I had to think about some of that. I'm talking at the same time, right? So this phrase, let's say, will become 2, 3, 4, 1. So now I've got 3 ways other than starting on 1. I've got adding the extra note below. I've got adding 2 notes. I've got cutting off a note. 3, 4, 1. Simple, simple stuff. Okay, these are your rudiments. This is what just sitting watching YouTube and getting more and more confused doesn't give people. These are the kinds of... We did stuff like this in Barry Harris classes all day long. And the musicians were advanced musicians doing this basic stuff, right? And I don't think anybody complained. This is how you get good, right? We're only working in C. So imagine we've got to do stuff like this in A flat, right? We've got to do stuff like this in G flat. We've got to know that kind of thing, yeah? Okay, next, we are going to start to join these things to chords, to triplets, to other things, right? I said remember that one, right? Let's say I just take chords in the C major scale. Simple stuff, right? Not complicated. 4 notes. Just play every alternate note, right? Okay, let's have a quick poll. And I would like to know chord arpeggios, like the one I just played, right? In at least 5 keys, like that. And let's have a yes or no. Be honest, because it helps me to help you. So I would like to know how many of you could do that in different keys. So keys like E flat, keys like B flat, keys like G. Many of you, some not yet. A flat, no problem. Good. Okay, about 68% of you have answered. Most of you saying yes to that. Fantastic. So if that's the case, then do stuff like this. Take half steps under them and make them a triplet, right? 1, 2, 3, and triplet. 1, 2, 3, and triplet. 1, 2, 3, and triplet. 1. Let me slow down. And triplet. 1, 2, 3, and triplet. 1, 2, 3, and 4 triplet. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. Okay, so let's say we had we'll come back to the triplets. What I'm going to do, fine, just go down a scale, right? So 1, 2, 3. Somebody asked about how to sound like you're playing bebop, right? Things like that. Get half steps under things. There are other tricks as well, but get half steps under things. If you're playing D minor 7, Great, you got a phrase. 2, 5, D minor 7, G7, C major, that kind of thing. Simple stuff. What were we going to do? We were going to do something with this. Okay, remember this phrase? All I'm going to do at the end of it is go up a chord. But when we're playing improv, we don't want to just add notes in like that. We want the notes to be clean. Great, you got a phrase. 1, 2, 3. By the way, that, the ones who asked about bebop, surround note, or some people call it an enclosure. Half step above C, half step below C. So, just by beginning, this is my point, beginning from the simplest things, you get phrases, and all we've done is work in the C major scale so far. Are people following? Yes? Clear? These are the things that I still do, right? I'm trying to convert you into a religion a little bit here, but these are things I'm still doing to this day. The tendency is to say, yeah, but what do you got around the back? You must have something other than that. This is where the magic comes from, the simple things. Build your own phrases by taking components. So start with something like the scale. Start with something like a chord. Start with something like continue with something like a half step under one of those things. We did scale up. We could have done scale down. Right? We could have put the half step underneath the top note and then gone down a chord, right? Join two components like that. Join a scale to a chord, that kind of thing. Then have 3 components. That's how you get really solid. Okay, I think people are clear. Level 1s and early level 2s. Francis says, simple, yes, but how to follow the beat? Well, if you can't feel the beat of what I'm doing, then you really must work slowly. I'm demonstrating quickly, Francis, relatively quickly, but you must work slowly, you must count, and you must play with a metronome. You must be saying 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. And you must do it like that. I did this experiment some years ago in my teaching. You know, sometimes I come back from holiday and I go, really? Are you people do? You know, when I have the students, I notice things that I wouldn't notice if I hadn't had a break. And so on this particular occurrence, I noticed everybody was playing out of time. You know, the time wasn't solid enough. So I said, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that everybody can count what they're playing. And at the beginning, to be honest, many couldn't. And I persisted with it, even though it was uncomfortable for some of them. By the end of one lesson, every single student could. And it started to transform their playing when we worked on it. So do count what you play. Even when you're listening to music, Francis, be counting whatever you're hearing. Try and count the beat to it, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a while, actually.